What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you through the template draft, or the team that basically everyone is picking at the moment. Now while for game week 1, you guys don't necessarily have to go for differentials, I always think at the start of the season it's important to see what players you're going to have to compete with, as if you don't choose a player that's picked by half the game, you definitely are at risk. Now there's two ways to always deal with these kind of template options. The first one is just to simply ignore them. If you think they're going to perform terribly, and I won't lie, there are a few template options that are kind of a head scratcher, or what you can do is try and counter them. For example, for the popular Aaron Wan-Bissaka going for his teammate Diouf on the other kind of wing, and trying to get the edge by going for a differential. So I do this before every season starts, always love to look at the template, and this will be useful for the upcoming days. And we're kind of in the sweet spot of timing just before those casual managers auto-pick their teams and ruin the percentages. So if you guys find some use from this video, I think it's going to be quite informative. Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into this template team. Now hopefully you guys are absolutely hyped for the Friday night deadline for game week 1. Just a reminder, I'll be doing a deadline stream 1 hour before the deadline, so make sure those notifications are turned on for this channel, as you guys don't want to miss out. And also make sure that you guys do join the Discord, link in the description. It's a completely free channel except for some paid members, so feel free to if you guys do want to join the membership. Now getting back to this template team, and you guys have probably noticed one number in red, and that's minus 13 million for the money in the bank. So while I didn't take accounting in high school, I can promise you that my sums do add up. And this is just because I'm going to be talking about the most popular options, not necessarily the most budget friendly. Now at the end of the video, I'll be giving you guys a way to actually choose this template team, downgrading a few options to make it affordable. Now here and there were some options that I decided to sub out. For example, there were two highly owned Liverpool options. I'll talk about them both, but I'm not going to select them both for the squad, just to cover some different teams. So the most popular goalkeeper is actually going to be on our bench, and it's going to be Dubravka at 26.8%, completely understandable as probably the only playing 4.0 goalkeeper. Now if you guys don't have Dubravka, I would suggest going from what I wouldn't suggest is having him as your only playing goalkeeper though, as with the current injury, you don't exactly know if he's going to be starting the season. Now to make matters worse, in the template team, we do have Kelleher between the sticks, coming just under 24%. Now with the current knock, he might also not be fit, but don't worry, we still have press conferences coming up before game week 1, and that'll definitely give us an indication if he's going to be back fit. Now at 4.5, there's not a ton of options at the moment in terms of FPL. If Kelleher is fit, he's probably my favorite though. The only slight concern I do have is that Brentford have sold a ton of players and their team might look slightly different, and under the new manager, is he going to replicate Flecken's form? But I can kind of understand this pick, to be honest. At 4.5 as mentioned, not many options, probably my favorite, not too many complaints from me. Now where things do kind of spice up in the template is obviously the majority of managers are a little bit more adventurous than myself, as they've decided to go for Frimpong over Virgil van Dijk. Now the ownership combinations are actually quite close. Virgil van Dijk comes just below Frimpong, and he's owned by 28.4%. Now this selection does actually worry me because I do kind of feel like Frimpong has the highest ceiling. We know that Connor Bradley apparently just missed out on the Community Shield, so he should be fine for game week 1, and could there be some rotation with Frimpong? I would probably say that Frimpong is first choice, and that's why me personally, I'm going for Virgil van Dijk, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Frimpong outscore him. Then the adventures do continue with our second attacking defender. It's going to be Aït-Nouri, the new signing for Man City. Now if Aït-Nouri can become nailed, I do think he could be a steal at 6.0, as he's just so attacking from that fullback slot. Now the Man City defense, not every player is up to fitness apparently, and therefore Aït-Nouri should be okay to start the season. And those Man City fixtures are actually pretty good for clean sheets. So once again, this selection actually does worry me as well, as I've got no Man City defensive coverage. And you guys know Aït-Nouri from previous seasons loves an assist or an odd goal. The goals could also be flowing for Gabriel from those set pieces. He comes in as our third highest owned defender at just under 21%. And he was back in the lineup for the last Arsenal friendly, so you guys don't have to worry about his fitness. Now once again, it just seems like this is the common theme with the defenders, Another player I'm worried about, as I have no Arsenal coverage from a defensive department. Arsenal do have some hit or miss fixtures though at the start of the season, but you probably want to make a plan to bring them in a few game weeks time. So I own none of this back three at the moment, which does worry me. I do own the highest owned defender though, and that's Wan-Bissaka on the bench. So if you guys are wondering who AWB is, it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and he comes in at 30.4%, and I really like him as my favorite 4.5. Has a bit of def con threat, but also some attacking threat. Don't expect West Ham to keep too many clean sheets, but can't really see any 4.5s doing so. Now once again, if you guys want to kind of compete, get the edge over him, I've already recommended in the introduction, Diouf on the other side. He seems more attacking than Wan-Bissaka, and therefore could be a better selection. Just one of the ways that you guys can try and get a little bit of a difference to the template, but I doubt Wan-Bissaka at 4.5 has too much of an influence on your FPL team. Now the next player is also a 4.5, it's going to be Konza. I can't really understand this pick if I'm honest with you guys. His def con threat is pretty low, and Aston Villa's defense can be quite hit or miss, but he did put in a good shift last season. Now his ownership just below that 24% mark does put him actually as our third highest owned defender at the moment. So it seems like a general consensus on these 4.5s amongst us managers. Now I'm not too worried about Aston Villa though and Konza as a whole, and therefore I'll probably give him a miss. But the rest of the defenders I don't own too many of, especially the premiums. Let's see if things do shift up in our midfield department. I definitely own our captain of the template team, and that's going to be Cole Palmer, the highest owned player in FPL at 56.1%. Now quite interesting to me that his ownership has actually kind of skyrocketed recently. At least it seems like Salah's has been dipping, and that's why he's overtaken the GOAT. But if you guys don't have Cole Palmer in your team, that might be quite a risk at the start of the game weeks. So can another option cover Cole Palmer? Nkunku couldn't last season, maybe a João Pedro or an Enzo can this season, but probably not. He is quite an elite FPL option. So it does seem like the template is going to be going for Cole Palmer plus Mo Salah, as he comes in just below at 55.1%. Now as mentioned, that Salah ownership has been slowly dripping down. Missing 2 penalties in preseason doesn't generally help your ownership at the end of the day. And as always, people are saying that he's playing too wide to get FPL points. Now this has actually happened, especially in previous seasons. I would still recommend that if you think Mo Salah over the whole preseason has been the most of your drafts, I'd probably still select him. But definitely Cole Palmer and Salah are the template premiums to own at the current moment, so going without either could be a massive risk. Maybe your solution to no Salah is to go for Florian Wirtz, as his ownership is just below the 34% mark, and he does come in quite a bit cheaper, 6.0 mil to be precise. Now as a Liverpool fan, obviously really pumped for Wirtz to have joined the squad. In the Community Shield, he looked simply magical. It might be a wait and see if that actually translates into FPL points though. I can assure you though, he'll be getting a ton of assists this Premier League season, and at 8.5 could make an absolute mockery of that price tag. But I would probably go for Wirtz in addition to Salah instead of covering him, but there's always those brave managers out there. Now I'll throw back to one of my previous drafts with Kudos from Spurs, the new signing. 24% is actually pretty decent. And in that 6.5 bracket, he does have a ton of competition. I know Dayvy with that Grealish signing could be benched. And I've mentioned my favorite Ismail Assar, but there is some concern about Crystal Palace now playing in European qualification. With Kudos though, it seems like Spurs are now bidding for Savinho from Man City, so that could cause a shake-up. But in preseason, he's been pretty integral to that Spurs lineup. So I can't really bash this selection. If he gets the majority of minutes, I think he could be a quality option. Doesn't always translate into FPL points though. Then our last option comes in at 19.2%, and that's going to be Rodgers. Currently has a knock, but should be okay for game week 1. I would wait for Emirates press conference coming up in a few days' time to just make sure on that fact, but with his price tag and nailed game time, he could also be a steal even at this price point. I mean, I can't bash the Rodgers selection, as Ollie Watkins has been in the majority of my teams, and I do feel like Aston Villa can do quite well from an attacking point of view. I will add though that this kind of template midfield does have a similar price structure to myself. I'm deciding between going for Bruno or going for Wirtz, and this ownership does worry me that I'm not going for Florian. Now up front, once again, it seems like every FPL manager is a Chelsea fan, I think it's because of those great fixtures for the start of the season, as João Pedro comes in at 54.1%. So if you guys don't own João Pedro, you're definitely going to be hoping every single game week that he does end up blanking, and with the way he's playing as well as Chelsea, I don't even know if that's a reality. So it might just be worth biting the bullet, going for him for the opening games, and then just seeing how it goes. Even if he gets subbed on the 70-minute mark, he can still do his damage. This might just be because there's so few forwards to pick at the end of the day, but I won't lie, João Pedro has looked good in preseason. I guess the same can't be said about Gyökeres from Arsenal. The new signing hasn't exactly kicked on, however, he did score in the last preseason friendly, and that might have shot his ownership up to 25.5%. Now, kind of one of the reasons I'm still selecting Ollie Watkins is that it allows me to be quite flexible with that 9.0 price bracket, so if Gyökeres looks absolutely sensational, I can jump on quite quickly. But it was very interesting for me to see that he was the second highest owned striker at the moment. I think people are just backing the fact that he should hit the ground running and play the majority of minutes as striker for Arsenal. Now there might still be that threat of kind of Kai Havertz playing in the spot. That could still happen, however, the money they've paid for him, he should be nailed. Now another big massive striker is going to be on our bench, and that's going to be Erling Haaland, definitely the contributing factor to us being out of budget. Now the reason I want to include Haaland here is obviously he would be in the starting 11 if we did select him and not on the bench, but I just wanted to show another premium kind of ownership. So if you guys are deciding between Haaland and Cole Palmer, Palmer has more than double the ownership than Haaland does, which could excite you or it could make you quite nervous. I understand there's quite a bit of price difference between the two, and that's what probably makes Palmer the easy solution. But if Haaland starts the season like last season with back-to-back Haddies, I can see the funds being transferred out. But once again, just wanted to showcase that the premiums definitely are going to be kind of Palmer and Salah to start the season with, Haaland owned by just under a fourth of the game. So this team is going to be the best team from the template ownership that I could kind of make, but once again, it's not going to be affordable. So enjoy your last look at the squad that you can't afford. Let's go over some changes that you guys could make. Now the obvious one is taking out Erling Haaland, but let's now sub out one of our premium defenders. Gabriel has the lowest ownership, and let's assume that Rodgers is still injured. Now I'm going to plug some cheap options here. Esteve obviously at 4.0, healthy ownership at just over 15%, and then Mark Guehi at 13%. Now the last player I'm going to plug, Anderson, one of my favorites, only owned by 5.7% of the game. Seems like everyone over on FPL Twitter does own him. So now this draft is affordable, and it kind of has a similar price structure to the one that I've selected for my own team, just subbing Watkins in and maybe a Murillo instead of Aït-Nouri. In terms of Kelle, I do prefer the 5.0s, either Sals or Sanchez, but overall the structure does look pretty similar. You guys can let me know how many of the template draft you guys do own though. Are you as worried about your defense as I am after seeing this? I think I could survive some of these other template selections. Definitely am worried about that João Pedro ownership, might just have to bite the bullet even though I don't think he might be the best striker, just go for the selection, and then we can chop and change whichever 7.5 who performs better. But always super useful to look at the ownership percentages, then you can decide to either ignore or to counter-attack. Aaron Wan-Bissaka's 30% does worry me though, as if he doesn't perform, that price is just going to drop. Tons more content to come up though, so make sure those notifications are turned on and that you guys are subscribed. Only a few days left till that Game Week 1 deadline stream. But this is basically our video guys, hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you have subscribed. Yeah, tons of content still to come up. Make sure that you guys are hyped for that Game Week 1 deadline. But for the time being, I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.